Other essential elements of a contract. It has already been discussed that an agreement results from a proposal by one party and its acceptance by the other party. We have already discussed offer, acceptance and consideration in detail. We shall now discuss in detail the elements which constitute a valid contract enforceable in law. Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 provides that an agreement, in order to be a contract, must satisfy the parties, must be competent to contract, it must be made by the free consent of the parties, it must be made for a lawful consideration and with a lawful object, and it should not have been expressly declared as void by law. Capacity to contract. Meaning. Capacity refers to the competence of the parties to make a contract. It is one of the essential elements to form a valid contract. Who is competent to contract? Every person is competent to contract who is of the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject, and who is of sound mind and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. Analysis of Section 11. Every person is competent to contract who has attained the age of majority, is of sound mind, and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. Age of majority. Every person domiciled in India shall attain the age of majority on the completion of 18 years of age and not before. The age of majority being 18 years, a person less than that age even by a day would be minor for the purpose of contracting. Person of sound mind. According to Section 12 of Indian Contract Act, a person is said to be of sound mind for the purposes of making a contract if, at the time when he makes it, is capable of understanding it and of forming a rational judgment as to its effect upon his interests. Contract by disqualified persons. Besides minors and persons of unsound mind, there are also other persons who are disqualified from contracting, partially or wholly, so that the contracts by such person are void. Incompetency to contract may arise from political status, corporate status, legal status, etc. Law relating to minors' agreement or position of minor. A contract made with or by a minor is void ab initio. A minor is not competent to contract, and any agreement with or by a minor is void from the very beginning. It is especially provided in Section 10 that a person who is incompetent to contract cannot make a contract within the meaning of the Act. No ratification after attaining majority. A minor cannot ratify the agreement on attaining majority as the original agreement is void ab initio, and a void agreement can never be ratified. A minor can always plead minority. A minor can always plead minority and is not stopped to do so even where he has taken any loan or entered into any contract by falsely representing that he was major. Rule of estoppel cannot be applied against a minor. It means he can be allowed to plead his minority in defense. Liability for necessaries. The case of necessaries supplied to a minor or to any other person whom such minor is legally bound to support is governed by Section 68 of the Indian Contract Act. A claim for necessaries supplied to a minor is enforceable by law. But a minor is not liable for any price that he may promise and never for more than the value of the necessaries. Minor can be a beneficiary or can take benefit out of a contract. Though a minor is not competent to contract, nothing in the Contract Act prevents him from making the other party bound to the minor. Thus, a promissory note duly executed in favor of a minor is not void and can be sued upon by him, because he, though incompetent to contract, may yet accept a benefit. Law relating to minor's agreement or position of minor. Contract by guardian, how far enforceable? Though a minor's agreement is void, his guardian can, under certain circumstances, enter into a valid contract on minor's behalf. Where the guardian makes a contract for the minor, which is within his competence and which is for the benefit of the minor, there will be valid contract which the minor can enforce. No specific performance. A minor's agreement being absolutely void, there can be no question of the specific performance of such an agreement. No insolvency. A minor cannot be declared insolvent as he is incapable of contracting debts and dues are payable from the personal properties of minor and he is not personally liable. Partnership. A minor being incompetent to contract cannot be a partner in a partnership firm, but under Section 30 of the Indian Partnership Act, he can be admitted to the benefits of partnership. Minor can be an agent. A minor can act as an agent, but he will not be liable to his principal for his acts. A minor can draw, deliver and endorse negotiable instruments without himself being liable. Law relating to minor's agreement or position of minor. Minor cannot bind parent or guardian. In the absence of authority, express or implied, an infant is not capable of binding his parent or guardian, even for necessaries. The parents will be held liable only when the child is acting as an agent for parents. Joint contract by minor and adult. In such a case, the adult will be liable on the contract and not the minor. In Sain Das vs. Ramchand, where there was a joint purchase by two purchasers, one of them was a minor, it was held that the vendor could enforce the contract against the major purchaser and not the minor. Minor as shareholder. A minor, being incompetent to contract, cannot be a shareholder of the company. If by mistake he becomes a member, the company can rescind the transaction and remove his name from register. But a minor may, acting though his lawful guardian, become a shareholder by transfer or transmission of fully paid shares to him. Surety for a minor. In a contract of guarantee, when an adult stands surety for a minor, then he, adult, is liable to third party as there is direct contract between the surety and the third party. Liability for torts. A tort is a civil wrong. A minor is liable in tort unless the tort in reality is a breach of contract. Thus, where a minor borrowed a horse for riding only, he was held liable when he lent the horse to one of his friends who jumped and killed the horse. Similarly, a minor was held liable for his failure to return certain instruments which he had hired and then passed on to a friend. Free consent. Definition of consent. Two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. Parties are said to have consented when they not only agreed upon the same thing but also agreed upon that thing in the same sense. Same thing must be understood as the whole content of the agreement. And if they do not agree in the same sense, there cannot be consent. A contract cannot arise in the absence of consent. Definition of free consent. Consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, or mistake. When consent to an agreement is caused by coercion, fraud, misrepresentation, or undue influence, the agreement is a contract voidable at the option of the party whose consent was so caused. When the consent is vitiated by mistake, the contract becomes void.